This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
And they're off. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. AAA says a record 72 million of us are traveling for the upcoming Independence Day holiday. Happy birthday, America. Today and Sunday will be the busiest times to be on the roads. We're about halfway through the heat wave. Real feel conditions of 100 plus expected this afternoon. It's rinse, recycle, repeat for tomorrow. Family Life's Dee Haley has more on the do's and don'ts of combating this extreme weather.
Precautionary actions include drinking plenty of fluids, stay in an air-conditioned room, stay out of the sun, and check up on relatives and neighbors. Young children and pets should never be left unattended in vehicles under any circumstances. During hot weather, car interiors can reach lethal temperatures in a matter of minutes. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
More than a dozen people are dead after a massive missile and drone attack on Ukraine. Russia says it targeted military fuel and energy facilities in and around the capital of Kyiv. Ukraine says residential buildings were also destroyed. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has led to more than 2 million military casualties, with Moscow's forces bearing the brunt of the losses. Talks to keep the peace with Iran have wrapped up in Doha, Qatar.
Already the Iranians are starting to admit that some nuclear inspections will take place, and ultimately some of the money for sanctions relief will be used to purchase goods for the Iranian people. As the Middle East waits to see what comes next in the ceasefire with Iran, Israel is marking 1,000 days since the October 7th massacre.
Fox's Trey Yinks, the U.S. Men's World Cup soccer team, is moving on to the next round after posting a 2-0 victory last night.
A 24-year drought is broken in Northern California.
There's the final whistle. Seattle, we're coming back.
The U.S. men's national team winning their first knockout stage match since 2002 with a win over Bosnia and Herzegovina.
ABC's Christian Codera. Team USA will face Belgium in the round of 16 on Monday from Seattle. The June jobs report went public today. It was released a day ahead of schedule because tomorrow is the official 4th of July holiday, even though it's July 3rd. Employers last month adding just 57,000 jobs to their payrolls. The overall jobless rate was 4.2%. America celebrating its birthday this weekend, and babies are getting a present from President Trump. Correspondent Rory O'Neill.
Trump accounts officially launch on the 4th of July. Millions of families have already signed up for what's technically known as a 530A account. They provide U.S. citizens born between 2025 and 2028 with a one-time $1,000 contribution from the federal government. That money cannot be withdrawn until the child turns 18. I'm Rory O'Neill.
The third time was not a charm in NASA's attempt to grab a space telescope and move it into a different orbit. ABC's Jim Ryan.
The robot that's meant to hoist the Swift satellite into higher orbit is not loaded into a rocket and launched vertically. It's loaded onto a rocket and dropped from the belly of a modified jetliner, and then it shoots off into space. The plane carrying the robot did lift off this morning from the Marshall Islands, but a mechanical problem with a component in the launch system prompted NASA to call off the mission again.
The satellite's in danger of disintegrating into Earth's atmosphere. Former Vice President Kamala Harris is reaching out to socialist Mayor Zohran Mamdani as rumors swirl about her running for president again in 2028.
The fact that she's courting people like Mamdani, these socialists and communists, and goes back to the radical leftists, because the Democrats are in big trouble as a party.
That is the chairman of the Republican National Committee, political pundit Kaylee McGee-White.
I think what you're going to see is the Democratic establishment be cannibalized, and it's going to be their own fault for letting these people in the first place.
Harris had a private telephone call with Mamdani last week. Polls show she is the leading candidate to carry the banner for the Democratic Party in a couple of years. Liberal lawmakers in California have shot down a bill that would have banned sex offenders from public office. Fox's Christina Coleman.
Registered sex offenders who have been convicted of child molestation can still run for public office in some cases, and that's because a bill that would have banned all registered sex offenders from running for office was killed.
The legislation failed after its author rejected an amendment that would limit the ban to lifetime registered sex offenders. The bill was birthed after a convicted child abuser tried to run for city council in Fresno. Police say it was brazen and it was reckless. Two masked daredevils scaled the very tip of the Empire State Building yesterday, some 1,500 feet in the air.
The man and woman dressed in black and wearing masks casually balanced at the top of that antenna. No tethers, no net, just a gusty wind and a dizzying drop. Police identifying that couple as Angela Nicolau and Ivan Kuznetsov, Russian nationals who documented the whole thing. Specially trained officers with helmets and harnesses meeting the couple on their descent and taking them into custody.
Both those daredevils making their first court appearance today. That's reporter Aaron Kurtursky. Final preparations underway at Madison Square Garden for tomorrow's big wedding. The wedding between Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. As many as 1,000 people expected to attend. The NYPD is shutting down roads near the arena. Still to come on the Noon Report, state trooper killed in the line of duty. How to beat the heat if you lack AC. And fireworks safety tips.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. We continue to roast across our region. I'll have the numbers and a look toward the Independence Day weekend coming up in just a few moments.
All right, Kevin, we'll see in about 10 minutes. Thank you. A Pennsylvania state trooper was killed in the line of duty yesterday in Schuylkill County. 44-year-old Mike Pajara was inspecting an 18-wheeler on I-81 in Cass Township when he was fatally struck by another 18-wheeler driven by a Massachusetts man. Pajara was a 20-year veteran of the Pennsylvania State Police. Governor Josh Shapiro.
He was a good man, and he was a good cop, and he was taken from us far too soon as he served our community. We're all going to miss him.
Trooper Pajara is the 106th member of the Pennsylvania State Police to die in the line of duty. Recent high-profile inmate deaths in New York have activists clamoring for criminal justice reforms. Attorney Ruben Lindo is sponsoring a bill that would require law enforcement intervene if they witness a violent incident involving their peers.
We expect those who have the duty to serve and protect do that no matter if it's the most of society or in the least of society, which happens to be, in this case, incarcerated individuals or those who are currently in custody.
But NYSCOPA's Brian Holaska fears the legislation, while well-intended, could backfire.
If we have to do a warranted cell extraction, there's people nervous and don't want to do that. Now, they pass more legislation like this, the duty to intervene. I mean, is that going to make people go hands off even more and say, I don't want to get involved in nothing now?
Let me remind NYSCOPA that this bill is not an anti-corrections officer bill or an anti-law enforcement bill. If anything, it's a pro-law enforcement bill because it strengthens the officers who are willing to do the right thing and fully serve and protect.
Assemblyman Landon Dice telling Spectrum News,
I know that correction officers have a very tough job. I'll be the first person to say that. What we're talking about is a man being strapped to a table, being beaten by 6 to 8 people. There is no justification for how that man died on a table with medical personnel and correction officers watching idly by.
Lawmakers are expected to take up the criminal justice reforms when they return to Albany early next year. An ICE agent fired his weapon yesterday while trying to arrest an illegal immigrant in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Details from Family Life's Mark Webster.
The Department of Homeland Security says officers were conducting a targeted vehicle stop to arrest Clemente Lara Hernandez, who is from Mexico and has a criminal history. DHS says Lara Hernandez allegedly weaponized his car and rammed an ICE vehicle before taking off in the wrong direction and crashing into a civilian vehicle. Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you, Mark. There are ways you can beat the heat even if you lack air conditioning like yours truly. It starts by closing all windows and blinds in your home during the heat of the day. Energy conservation expert Catherine Norris.
If you don't have blinds or curtains or window coverings, you can use sheets, you can use towels, whatever you can to create an extra barrier from allowing the heat and the sun to come through your windows.
Norris says at nighttime, open up those windows on opposite sides of your home to help create a cross breeze. First responder Chris Stawat says heat rises, so if you can, stay in the lowest level of your home.
You have a lower level in the home, like a basement. Those are typically much cooler than the upper floors of your home, so you want to stay there.
Also, avoid using appliances that create heat. Keep electronics powered down and turn off the lights whenever you leave a room. Experts say you should never play with fireworks, not even on the 4th of July. It's best to leave the pyrotechnics to the professionals. Sparklers can reach temperatures of 2,000 degrees. That's hot enough to melt metal. Trauma surgeon James Simmons says fireworks can damage your face, hands, and your eyes.
You think of a firework that goes up and it lights up and we all watch and it's pretty, except it generally explodes in a 360-degree direction. So if you're too close, one of those little shards, and all it needs to be is something microscopic, gets in your eye and you're causing some serious damage.
Nearly 200 Americans go to the emergency room with fireworks-related injuries every 4th of July. We've got sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, there was some wheeling and dealing going on in the NBA, but we have to begin with the USA men's soccer team. They are into the round of 16 as they knocked out Bosnia 2-0. The Americans played a man down in the final 30 minutes of the game after a red card, but it was then that they scored the second goal with a precision free kick by Malik Tillman, and that secured the victory. England and Belgium also advanced. The U.S. will play Belgium on Monday. Now to the NBA. The 76ers have acquired Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics for Paul George and some draft picks. And the New York Knicks have lost center Mitchell Robinson. He signed with Boston. Robinson had been the longest tenured Knicks player. To baseball, a second sweep in a row suffered by the Yankees. Detroit scored 4 runs in the 11th inning, and they beat New York 6-2. The Blue Jays rolled over the Mets 9-3. Phillies got a 3-run home run from Trey Turner, and they beat Paul Skeens and the Pirates 10-6. The Orioles, Guardians, Rays, Twins, Braves, Brewers, Rockies, Giants, Nats, Athletics, and Cubs also picked up wins. For Chicago, a blowout, 23-3 against the Padres. Dansby Swanson belted 3 home runs and drove in 8. One of those blasts was a granny. Finally, this note, new Buffalo Bills wideout DJ Moore bought out a store's entire supply of T-shirts with his name on it, and he told the owner to give them away to anyone who asked for one. The 27 shirts are free for the taking. You just have to figure out which store has them. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy, thank you very much. And still to come on the Noon Report for a Thursday, House of Horrors in Ohio. 4th of July travel, and halfway through the heat wave, the worst of it hits today. Kevin Williams after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stone Street. Should Christians love their country? That's always been a controversial question. But as America celebrates its 250th birthday, in the middle of intense political division and a decline in reported pride of country, a proper understanding of patriotism from a Christian worldview has never been more relevant. In his book, In Defense of Christian Patriotism, Dan Darling defined patriotism as, quote, love of country as manifested in loyalty, service, and giving honor to one's country. Church Father St. Augustine gave Christians a good way to prioritize loves in his Ordo Amoris, or Order of Loves, which can be a good way to think about love of country. Here's St. Augustine, quote, living a just and holy life requires one to be capable of an objective and impartial evaluation of things. To love things, that is to say in the right order, so that you do not love what is not to be loved, or fail to love what is to be loved, or have a greater love for what should be loved less, or an equal love for things that should be loved less or more, or a lesser or greater love for things that should be loved equally. It may sound complicated, but it's really helpful. As Darling has pointed out, Christians often create this false binary between the love of country and the love of God. But that framework contrasts with both what Augustine and the Bible itself says. As Darling has pointed out, Christians often create a false binary between love of country and love of God. But that contradicts both Augustine and the Bible. The Apostle Peter wrote that we are to honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the emperor. See, there's an order here. We're to fear God and honor the government, not the other way around. And we honor the government unless the powers that be direct us to disobey God. A helpful way to understand the proper ordered patriotism is to consider it like a virtuous mean, similar to Aristotle's virtues, which exist between two extremes. A virtuous patriotism also sits between two extremes. On one hand, as C.S. Lewis explained in The Four Loves, an excessive love of one's country leads to idolatry, as it becomes a demon when it becomes a god. On the other hand, the deficiency can lead to what Lewis called debunking, the mockery of love of country that tears down one's home and heritage, all in the name of patriotism itself. Yet a biblical and virtuous love of country need not blindly see America as perfect or godlike. America is neither pure nor free from sin, but nor is it uniquely evil. As such, America is not unredeemable. Rather, it's grounded in noble, true principles. And that kind of patriotism is marked by gratitude and loyalty to America by recognizing it as a love that's properly ordered. So with the final word, at least today, on Christian patriotism, here's Chuck Colson.
The Christian position is beautifully balanced. On the one hand, we don't deify our country, we don't wrap the flag around the cross, for we know that our ultimate citizenship is in heaven, and that's where our ultimate allegiance is. But at the same time, the only place for expressing that allegiance is in concrete loyalties God has called us to here on earth, including loyalty to country. We can't love mankind in the abstract. We can only really love people in the particular, concrete relationships God has placed us in our family, church, community, and our nation. The Christian has the balanced understanding, and so celebrate the 4th of July this year by thanking God that while He has called you into His kingdom, that's our ultimate loyalty, He has allowed us to live in, and yes, love this land of liberty.
That was Chuck Colson. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
Thank you very much, John. Outside we go next. Weather where you live with the always reliable Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life forecast for this afternoon. Intensely hot and humid with high temperatures in the 90s to near 100. There'll be a few scattered thunderstorms this evening in western New York and western Pennsylvania. Otherwise, overnight tonight it's balmy and sultry, mainly fair, low temp 70. Tomorrow, some sunshine and steamy. Could be some afternoon and evening thunderstorms that are feisty. High temps, upper 80s and 90s. On Saturday, Independence Day, variably cloudy, a couple of showers and thunderstorms. Not as warm, but still plenty humid with high temperatures in the 80s and lower 90s.
All right, thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price. Here's what's going on Thursday, July 2nd. More record heat. Today, triple-digit heat for many. Fox's Tanya J. Powers.
More than 65 million people across 20 states could see temperatures top 100 degrees, with more than 150 million currently under heat alerts. New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani says if the forecast holds, it could be the city's hottest 4th of July since 2010.
New York Health Commissioner Dr. James McDonald says there are 3 key things to keep in mind during this heat wave.
One is make sure you have water with you all the time. I think it's also important to know where air conditioning is if you need it. The third thing is be prepared to listen to your body. If you're starting to show signs of a heat injury, maybe a little lightheaded, you've got to get to air conditioning and get back to sipping water. If you do those 3 things, we'll get through this together.
By the way, extreme heat is the #1 weather-related killer in this country. A 20-year veteran of the Pennsylvania State Police was killed in the line of duty yesterday in Schuylkill County. 44-year-old trooper Mike Pahara was inspecting an 18-wheeler along I-81 in Cass Township when he was fatally struck by another 18-wheeler.
For more than an hour and a half, a valiant attempt was made to save Trooper Michael Pajara's life, and they were unsuccessful. The man died a hero.
Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens, the driver of that second big rig, now facing vehicular homicide charges. The June jobs report went public today. It was not good. Employers adding just 57,000 jobs to their payrolls last month. Overall unemployment was at 4.2%. Have car, will travel, a record number of us off and running for the busy 4th of July holiday, while most of us will be driving to our Independence Day destination. Millions more will be flying. Here's NBC's Maggie Vespa.
By land, by air, and by sea, July 4th's record travel rush is hitting its peak, with today set to be the busiest day at airports nationwide.
I know sometimes the lines can be bigger, so hoping for the best.
The electric combo of patriotic excitement and World Cup fever has TSA bracing for some 18.7 million passengers during this holiday stretch. Meanwhile, for drivers, today marks the busiest day to pick up a rental car. The number of Americans hitting highways is up, roughly 61 million, or 85% of all travelers. Experts not surprised.
This holiday is more of a backyard holiday, meaning that people are traveling shorter distances.
As excitement for America's historic birthday soars.
AAA says today and Sunday will be the busiest days for travel on the highways this 4th of July weekend. Russia's gone on the attack again in Ukraine. Fox's Jonathan Savage.
A night of horror, according to Ukraine's foreign minister. Homes made uninhabitable, buildings reduced to rubble, the sky lit up. Death and destruction as explosions shook Kyiv for hours. 74 missiles and almost 500 drones were launched. Russia described its attack as retaliation for Ukrainian strikes on civilian infrastructure.
15 to 20 million people, we're told, may attend the funeral next Thursday in Tehran of Iran's late Ayatollah Khomeini. The 86-year-old was killed February 28th in the opening hours of Operation Epic Fury. His compound was struck in a targeted U.S. missile attack. The Ayatollah ruled Iran for 36 years. 16 children were found living in deplorable conditions in a rural Ohio home this week. 2 of them had to be airlifted to the hospital. It was that bad. Police say some of those kids were within hours of death. Vinton County, Ohio Sheriff Ryan Kane.
Most of our livestock was kept in better conditions than the children. It was terrible. I mean, it looked like almost feral animals.
Ohio's Attorney General Andy Wilson.
I've done these types of cases for a long time, and I've just never seen anything like I saw today. It really looked third world, just almost beyond comprehension that this stuff can happen.
4 adults, all of them from the same family, face several counts of child endangerment. The victims range in age from 18 months to 18 years and were living as prisoners in one room for many years. That home's located in the town of Hamden, Ohio, which is about 60 miles south of Columbus. There's a new law in California concerning sell-by dates on food. Alex Stone reports from Los Angeles.
Many of us throw out food when it ages beyond the sell-by date, but food companies say that date does not mean the product has gone bad or that it's unsafe to eat, but it's an indicator to stores so they know peak freshness. It can confuse consumers, and now as part of a new law here in California, sell-by labels are illegal on food packaging.
Food manufacturers and retailers must use the phrase "best if used by" label from now on in California. A sky-high stunt in New York City's landed some thrill seekers in legal hot water. Correspondent Carmen Roberts.
A couple of masked daredevils took their love to astounding heights, climbing the Empire State Building's 1,454-foot antenna to unfurl a banner and film the terrifying view from the top. After about 30 minutes, the pair climbed down, and that's when the stunt turned romantic. The man, identified as Ivan Vanya Birkas, dropped to one knee and popped the question. And Angela Nicolau appeared to say yes, later showing off the ring on Instagram. No one was injured, but the couple climbed their way into trouble. Police took the pair into custody on the ground.
That couple filmed a 2024 documentary for Netflix called Skywalkers. a love story. President Trump's planning a lengthy speech on the National Mall in D.C. for the 4th of July holiday, even if there's record heat on the National Mall in D.C.
On July 4th, it's going to be approximately 107 degrees out. And I'm going to go and I'm going to make a really long speech just to show that I can do anything.
While a high of 107 is predicted Saturday in Washington, it should be in the upper 80s by the time Mr. Trump gives his speech. It's set for 9 p.m. on Independence Day. Another American win at the World Cup.
We had to dig deep for that one. Obviously, I felt we put on such a good performance.
Midfielder Christian Pulisic, after Team USA beat Bosnia and Herzegovina 2-0 in San Francisco last night. The Stars and Stripes move on to play Belgium in the quarterfinals on Monday. That game will be played in Seattle. Next at noon, a conversation about a key Supreme Court ruling this week on transgender athletes in girls' sports. The justices decided on Tuesday that states have the right to ban biological boys from female athletics. Kristen Wagner with Alliance Defending Freedom.
The court essentially said biology matters. It's a real thing. The law can reflect it. Sex-based categories are important. In fact, the court said it's vitally important. But I mean, the court's decision, the logic of it is that women and girls are experiencing the cost of this, and that under Title IX, a federal statute, there is a right of girls to insist that they have equal opportunities on the playing field. And I think that the logic of it is going to extend to our rights in the locker rooms, in the dorm rooms, in the showers. There are inherent physical differences between men and women, between boys and girls. And where those differences matter, states are right to enforce them. The court also said that under Title IX, there is a right of girls to have equal opportunities on the playing field. And those just aren't like, oh, we have to have separate teams, but qualitatively the same opportunities, quantitatively the same opportunities. And so under Title IX, which also is going to apply in the context of the privacy and safety under these statutes, we are going to drive those decisions home. And I think when I was reading this decision, and that, Justice Thomas saying, like, come on, let's recognize the truth here. That is the trajectory that the court is taking, and it is reflective of the American public. Now that we have seen what this toxic gender ideology does, 8 in 10 Americans say, get it out of our sports, get it out of our classrooms, and give us our rights back. And we have to keep defending them and ensuring that our girls and our boys are not told they're born in the wrong body, because there are real-world consequences to that.
That's Kristen Wagner with Alliance Defending Freedom. ADF's Chelsea Yeoman continues our coverage. She spoke recently to Family Life's Sarah Harnish about what Tuesday's High Court ruling means exactly for girls' sports.
Schools are allowed to separate sports and private spaces and locker rooms and bathrooms based on biological sex. Boys do not belong in women's restrooms or locker rooms, and vice versa. Those laws were challenged, and we appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. 27 states in lockstep also passed similar laws to protect our most sacred spaces from people of the opposite sex coming in, and those laws were upheld. We are very excited to see that under the 14th Amendment, states can say there's a distinction between men and women biologically. Those distinctions are real physically, and that girls can be protected from what our clients underwent, which were things like harassment in the locker room, having to share beds with boys of the opposite sex on sporting events and trips, and of course our athletes who have been displaced. They've lost medals, they've lost championships by the thousands to boys competing in their sports, and all of that ends. What this means is historically in the United States of America, for the first time, we can really stand by these laws, and we want the 22 states who have not yet passed these types of protections to move. But this goes so much more beyond sports, because it allows states to define what a woman is. It stops the erasure of women and girls, and it's more than just competition and allowing them to be victorious, which is really important actually to send that message to women and girls. There are two biological sexes, and that is good. It's okay that we're distinct but equal under the Equal Protection Clause, and I love of that.
It was a witty legal strategy because basically what it does is it puts the power back in the hands of the states, which is exactly what the court ruled with Roe versus Wade on the issue of abortion. The states have the right, which is why West Virginia and Idaho and these, 25 other states, 27 in total, now have banned transgender athletes in sports. What happens now in the trans sports world? Where do they go from this?
Well, it has been waiting on this for the states that have acted to protect women's sports and locker rooms. So those laws are in effect and have been upheld. And so any of those lower court rulings that have held otherwise, those are nullified essentially by the Supreme Court ruling. And in the 22 states that do not choose to allow for those distinctions in sports, I think there will continue to be, unfortunately, and I hope this isn't true, but there will continue to be challenges for girls. Girls are the ones hurt by this, and I mean physically hurt. There are safety concerns. We've had women and clients, if you look up their testimonies, who've been knocked unconscious, who've been serious injured, lost cognitive function. We've had clients who are sexually harassed in their locker rooms. Unfortunately, those are very real scenarios, and I hope that everyone can take a look around and say it's time to wake up. After a ruling like this, let the grown-ups be the grown-ups in the room. Schools should be in the business of caring for these children instead of indoctrinating them.
That is Chelsea Yeoman with Alliance Defending Freedom speaking to our own Sarah Harnish on this week's 6-3 decision from the Supreme Court upholding states' rights to ban transgender athletes from girls' sports. There are 27 states in that boat. 22 others, including New York and PA, permit biological boys in female athletics, and those policies will remain intact. The High Court this week did not issue a nationwide ban. And finally at noon for a Thursday, a Pennsylvania church that is older than the country itself will celebrate America's 250th anniversary by returning to its roots this weekend. The First Presbyterian Church in Carlisle is holding a colonial-style service on Sunday. That church building dates back to 1757. And to make the service as authentic as possible, there will be no pipe organ played. All the music will be sung a cappella. And don't expect any hymns either. Churches back in the day used to only sing psalms. And get this, George Washington, that George Washington, America's first president, worshipped at this very church in the year 1794. He was passing through Carlisle to suppress the Whiskey Rebellion. This service on Sunday begins at 10 a.m. and will be followed by a patriotic sing-along. It's the First Presbyterian Church in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Talk about some pretty remarkable history. And that's our world, the world we live in. Thursday, the 2nd of July. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.